Hi there, my name's Simon Drew, and welcome to the Practical Stoic Podcast, where I give you practical Stoic advice for modern times. If you'd like to see more information about this podcast, or if you'd like to see more of my free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com. But for now, I really hope that you enjoy this podcast, and if you do, then I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review so that more people can have the chance to listen to this great work. Everything harmonizes with me which is harmonious to thee, O universe. Nothing for me is too early or too late, which is in due time for thee. Everything is fruit to me which thy seasons bring, O nature. From thee are all things, in thee are all things, to thee all things return. These incredible words come from Marcus Aurelius. They're so beautiful, and it almost seems as if he's saying a prayer. For those of you who have studied Stoicism for a long time, it would be no secret that Stoics love nature. In fact, they love it so much that they believe that our lives should be perfectly aligned with nature. Nature to a Stoic is the source of all wisdom, and it holds the answers to life's most important questions. This core value of Stoicism resonates with me very well, seeing as I grew up on a farm in Queensland, Australia. When I was growing up, there was rarely a time when I was not wandering through a muddy creek or exploring a waterfall or gallivanting through the forest. Nature represented adventure and discovery, and I probably spent as much time in nature as I did in our family home. When I started reading Seneca's writing at around age 20, I discovered that the Stoics also had a deep appreciation for nature's gifts, which made me fall even deeper in love with Stoicism. These days, as I climb mountains, kayak on the ocean, or hike through a beautiful Australian rainforest, I'm often reminded of the beautiful and poetic words of Seneca. He said, quote, "If you have ever come across a dense wood of ancient trees that have risen to an exceptional height, shutting out all light of the sky with one thick screen of branches upon another, the loftiness of the forest, the seclusion of the spot, your sense of wonderment at finding so deep and unbroken a gloom out of doors, will persuade you of the presence of a deity." End quote. The Stoics truly knew how to appreciate nature, and not only this, but they were fascinated by it. Marcus Aurelius writes the following, quote, "We should remember that even nature's inadvertence has its own charm, its own attractiveness. The way loaves of bread split open on top in the oven, the ridges are just byproducts of the baking, and yet pleasing somehow. They arouse our appetite without our knowing why. Or how ripe figs begin to burst, and olives on the point of falling, the shadow of decay gives them a peculiar beauty. Stalks of wheat bending under their own weight, the furrowed brow of the lion, flecks of foam on the boar's mouth, and other things. If you look at them in isolation, there's nothing beautiful about them. And yet, by supplementing nature, they enrich it and draw us in. And anyone with a feeling for nature, a deeper sensitivity, will find it all gives pleasure, even what seems inadvertent. He'll find the jaws of live animals as beautiful as painted ones or sculptures. He'll look calmly at the distinct beauty of old age in men and women, and at the loveliness of children, and other things like that will call out to him constantly. Things unnoticed by others, things seen only by those at home with nature and its works." End quote. These are the words of a man who truly appreciates and is at one with nature, taking the time to notice the small details that make up the whole, and making a point to always look for beauty in uncommon places. See, many people believe that Stoics are void of all emotions, and that they therefore rarely experience true joy. But this is simply not the case, and based on the words of Marcus Aurelius, it's clear that Stoics should experience more joy than most people by simply taking the time to notice the seemingly insignificant beauties of everyday life. And aside from the obvious psychological benefits of appreciating nature's beauty, science has recently been finding that there are many other benefits to aligning more closely with nature. For example, one study at the University of Michigan had students take a memory test and then go for a walk. Half of the students walked down a city street, and the other half walked around an arboretum. When they returned and took the memory test again, researchers found that the group who had walked in nature performed 20% better than the first time. Another study has linked time in nature to lower stress levels. Students were split up, and half spent 2 nights in the forest, and the other half spent that time in the city. When they returned, the students who had spent the time in nature showed clear declines in heart rate and cortisone levels. These are just a couple of examples of the numerous benefits of spending time in nature. Personally, I find that I'm able to think much more clearly when I'm around nature. I can be more creative, and I can navigate ideas more clearly. And it's as if a load has been lifted off my back, and I'm able to pause and reflect in a way that simply is impossible when I'm sitting at home or wandering around my suburb. George Washington Carver said, quote, "I love to think of nature as an unlimited broadcasting station through which God speaks to us every hour if we will only tune in." End quote. What a magnificent description of nature, an unlimited broadcasting station. A place where we can go to truly understand ourselves and the world. A place where we can reconnect with what it really means to be human. A place that gives so freely and never asks for anything in return. I'd like to offer you a challenge. Every day of this week, I want you to find 5 minutes in your day to spend some time in nature. Go for a walk in the park, climb a tree, go for a swim in the ocean, walk along the beach, lie down on some grass. Go for a hike or climb a mountain. Do anything as long as it gets you out of your home, out of the concrete jungle, out of the cubicle, and into nature. If you can find just 5 minutes every day to do this, then I can guarantee that you'll start to see some really positive changes in your life, and your Stoic experience will be enhanced in almost every single way. Thank you so much for listening to this podcast. Without people like yourself, I would not be doing this. And I'd like to share some gratitude for those people who have already reviewed the podcast and also to those people who have reached out to me with feedback. If you'd like to get in contact with me, as you know, you can go to my website, which is risetothegoodlife.com, and you can send me an email via my contact page. Otherwise, you can go to my Facebook page, which is Simon Drew or Daily Stoic Quotes. On my Daily Stoic Quotes page, as I'm sure you know, I post a Stoic quote every day, unless I'm being very lazy, in which case I'm very sorry. But if you want to be inspired by the Stoics, then please check that out. I can't wait to talk to you next time, but until then, I hope that this episode has helped you on your rise to the good life. Ciao. Thank you so much for listening to this episode of the Practical Stoic Podcast. I really hope that it's valuable to you, and I really hope that it helps you to live a better life. If it has been valuable to you, please don't forget to subscribe on iTunes and leave a positive review. If you'd like to see more free resources, just go to my website. It's risetothegoodlife.com.